on the air.
Hey, welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Are you ready to have a good time? Well, we are. My name is Gabe.
And I'm Anne-Marie. Here's a question for you. Who is usually
4, 3, 2, 1.
Studio Classroom is Please stand by. Studio Classroom is on the air.
Hey, welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Are you ready to have a good time? Well, we are. My name is Gabe.
And I'm Anne-Marie. Here's a question for you. Who is usually portrayed as being more productive and successful in life? Early birds or night owls? What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, it's not too hard to answer because early birds just have better reputations for some reason. I think one of the reasons is because when people think you can get up early and maybe exercise before work and just start your day that way, that means you are more disciplined in life.
I have heard that before, and I've heard that night owls tend to procrastinate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody's got their reputations, right?
Well, in our lesson today called, are you ready for this? It's a long one. Here we go. If you aren't a morning person, stop trying to be one.
So if we should stop trying to be early birds, does that mean you can be just as productive and successful as a night owl?
We'll see what our lesson suggests. But one thing's for sure, today is a great day to learn something new.
So let's do that together.
If you aren't a morning person, stop trying to be one. Fighting your body clock to conform to an external standard is only likely to make you less productive and successful, not more. Tim Cook gets up at 3:45 a.m. Pepsi CEO Indra Nooyi gets up at 4 a.m. Disney CEO Bob Iger is a 4:30 kind of guy. Jack Dorsey sleeps in until 5:30. So does my buddy Richard Branson. Rarely do night owls get good press, because hey, successful people wake up early. Well, at least some of them do. As Adam Grant says, the world's most successful people aren't worried about what time others wake up. They wake and work on the schedule that works for them.
Hi everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 今天我们先来看动词 conform. To conform 的意思是遵从、顺从。譬如说 While Jeremy was overseas, he had to conform to a different set of cultural standards. Jeremy 在海外的时候就必须遵从不一样的文化标准。或是 The school has very strict rules, and it was hard for the exchange student to conform. 学校有严格的规定，而交换学生有困难遵从。To conform 也有依着或是顺着形状的意思。譬如说 These shoes are comfortable because the insoles conform to the shape of your feet. 这鞋子穿起来很舒服，因为鞋垫会贴合脚型。好，我们再来看下一个字 external. External 是一个形容词，在文章里是指来自外面的或是来自外界的。比方说 Sophie lacks confidence, and when she faces external pressures, she gets anxious. Sophie 缺乏自信，当她遇到来自外面的压力时，就会感到焦虑。External 也可以指外面的或是表面的。譬如说 This medicine is only meant for external use. Don't drink it. 这个药只能外用，绝对不能内服。或是 All the external parts of this machine will need to be replaced, but the internal parts are fine. 这一台机器外表零件都要通通换掉，但是里面的还可以用。 Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. Okay, friends, the name of our lesson, of course, is If You Aren't a Morning Person, Stop Trying to Be One. We read here, fighting your body clock to conform to an external standard is only likely to make you less productive and successful, not more. Well, before we continue, let's take a look at a key term here in our lesson, and that is body clock. Now, of course, there are some related terms that will appear in the lesson, but the idea is your body clock. That is your body's natural need to sleep or eat or other things like that at particular times during the day.
You know, every time I travel to a new time zone,
Yeah.
my body clock gets totally messed up.
Yeah.
I'm waking up in the middle of the night, or maybe I want to take a nap at weird times of the day because my body clock just feels really off.
So what does that do to? I mean, you're going to a different time zone, so that would be
Because of the time change.
jet lag, right?
Jet lag. Mhm.
Yeah, well, that happens when you travel. Well, friends, everybody has a body clock, and we're going to see different terms here in our lesson that mean the same thing. But how does our lesson get started?
Well, it says here, Tim Cook gets up at 3:45 a.m. Pepsi CEO Indra Nooyi gets up at 4 a.m. Disney CEO Bob Iger is a 4:30 kind of guy.
Okay, wow, 4:30. What do you think about that, Anne-Marie?
I would not enjoy getting up at 4:30 in the morning, ever, for any reason.
Maybe he's talking about the afternoon.
There's no way.
No, it's 4:30 in the morning. That's really early. Okay.
Super early.
That's right. Okay, well, if you're not sure, Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple. We've got some other big names here in our lesson. But before we continue, let's take a look at the use of that phrase at the end there. He's a 4:30 kind of guy. What does that phrase even mean? Well, this is just a fun way to describe somebody. Here's a way to paraphrase that or rephrase it. He's the kind of guy who likes to get up at 4:30.
It's like saying I am or I'm not a certain kind of person or a certain type of person. Just like me, I am not a stay out late kind of girl.
Okay, you don't like to stay out late.
I don't like to stay out late because I get home and it's really late and then I have to take a shower and get ready for bed, and then by then I'm just too tired to do anything.
Right. Now, friends, you might think that you would add an adjective here in the sentence, maybe like he's not a energetic kind of guy. That's a pretty normal thing we might hear. It's pretty common. But here, there's a noun there, 4:30, or Anne-Marie, the phrase she used, stay out late kind of person, a verb phrase, right? So you can use other kinds of phrases here. So what kind of person are you? Do you like to get up at 4:30 in the morning? I do not.
Well, let's hear about some other early risers here. Jack Dorsey sleeps in until 5:30. So does my buddy Richard Branson. Now, they said sleep in.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what they meant. Really.
You know, I think the author's being kind of funny here. Because
5:30 is not sleeping in.
it's not sleeping in at all, especially to you and I and most people, most normal people. So that's why I think the author is having kind of that's the sense of humor here, saying, okay, for them, this is sleeping in. Perhaps they would even get up earlier under certain circumstances. Now, just so you know, Jack Dorsey is the CEO of Twitter, and Richard Branson is an influential businessman known for creating companies like the Virgin Group, that is Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Records. So far in our lesson, we've got some very influential people, all who get up very early in the day.
Well, let's hear about the opposite now. Rarely do night owls get good press. So the opposite of an early riser or an early bird is a night owl. And there's another interesting phrase at the end of this sentence, isn't there?
That's right.
Get good press.
If someone gets good press, that means they are praised, especially by the media and journalists and things like that. The opposite, of course, is to get bad press. That means they are often criticized.
Have you heard of pit bulls before?
Oh my goodness, pit bulls get pretty bad press.
Extremely bad press. That means there's always bad reports going around about them. They don't get good press. There aren't really very many good things said about them.
Exactly. Pit bull, I think in Chinese that's 比特犬, okay, very kind of a dangerous type of dog. They're not dangerous all the time, but because of the way the media reports stories about them, they get bad press. But we continue here because, hey, successful people wake up early. Well, at least some of them do. But here we're going to hear from Adam Grant. He is an organizational psychologist. He says the world's most successful people aren't worried about what time others wake up. They wake up and work on the schedule that works for them.
Well, speaking of waking up early, we have a waking up early related phrase today for you in our info cloud. Hello, friends. Welcome to Info Cloud. So, Rex, how was the movie you went to see last night?
The movie was great, but our seats were not great. We got our tickets late and only seats in the first row were available. Next time, I'll order tickets online ahead of time or get there earlier.
Well, you know what they say, the early bird catches the worm.
The early bird catches the worm. That's a great idiom to teach.
I'm glad you think so. Well, let's look at the origin of this idiom. The metaphor comes from the fact that birds who start their day early have access to more worms than those who start their flights later.
So the idiom is not talking about doing things in the morning, but just being early. When you are early in doing things, you have a greater chance of success. When you act or arrive early, you have a better chance of getting good things.
We can say Carrie finished her college applications before all of her friends. She already got her acceptance letter because the early bird catches the worm. You might also see this idiom used as the early bird gets the worm. Mom told Carl to get to the TV sale as soon as possible because the early bird gets the worm.
中文有一句谚语，早起的鸟儿有虫吃。英文也有几乎一模一样的流行语 ，The early bird catches the worm。早起的鸟儿可以抓到虫。The early bird catches the worm 原本是描述一只鸟如果比其他的鸟还要早起，就可以抓到更多的虫儿。因为没有什么竞争对手，这句话不只是鼓励人们要早起，而是要提早去做一些事情。例如，早一点完成作业，早一点完成大学的申请书，或是早一点到正在打折的大卖场去排队等等。换句话说 ，The early bird catches the worm 就是在说早一点做是有好处的。这就是今天的 Info Cloud， 我们下次云端见。
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom, friends. Are you a morning person or are you a night owl? Because if you're not a morning person,
Then you should stop trying to be one. Earlier we read that early birds get better press than night owls.
But we also heard from an organizational psychologist, Adam Grant, who says that the world's most successful people simply wake and work on the schedule that works for them.
Let's find out who or what agrees with him.
If you aren't a morning person, stop trying to be one. Science agrees. While you might think becoming an early bird is a simple matter of willpower and persistence, research shows that whether you're an early riser or a night owl is predominantly biological. Take the process that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. On average, our biological clocks run on a 24.2-hour cycle. Instead of having a periodic leap day to reset ourselves, we tend to adjust a little every day to account for the 0.2-hour difference. But some people have internal clocks that run longer than 24.2 hours, which means, over time, they naturally fall asleep later and get up later. In short, they didn't decide to be night owls. They are night owls, and that's okay.
接下来我们来看名词 persistence。persistence 就是坚持不懈的意思。例如 Cynthia has the skills and persistence to complete the task. Cynthia 拥有技能及坚持不懈的精神来完成任务。或是 Although the student showed a lot of talent, he lacked persistence. 那位同学虽然展现很多才华，但是他不够坚持。Persistence 也有持续下去或是一直存在的意思。比方说 Sarah is frustrated by the persistence of mold in her bathroom. Sarah 对她浴室里一直存在的霉菌感到沮丧。最后我们要看的字是动词 regulate。To regulate 的意思是控管或是调整。比如说 Because of the shortage of water, we have to regulate the amount of water being used in the yard. 因为缺水的关系，我们必须控管在院子里用的水量。或是 The players on the national team have to follow a diet that is strictly regulated by their coach. 国家代表队的成员必须遵守他们教练严厉控管的饮食计划。To regulate 也有管理的意思，譬如说 No one is regulating anything. No wonder everything is a mess here. 在这里没有任何人在管理，难怪整个地方很乱。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you, Jack, and let's get right back into our text. Science agrees. While you might think becoming an early bird is a simple matter of willpower and persistence, research shows that whether you're an early riser or a night owl is predominantly biological.
Okay, so we read on, take the process that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. Before we continue, isn't that word at the beginning of that sentence kind of interesting? Take. This cycle or this process?
That is an interesting word. Usually when you think of taking something, you think of physically taking something.
Exactly. I'm going to take this cup off the table. Well, take is short for take for example. It's a way of saying, of sharing an example. It's another word for consider. So consider the following situation.
Now this phrase is almost always used with a fact stated before or after it. So usually the thing that they're wanting you to take an example of will be directly before the sentence, or in some instances, directly after that sentence.
That's right. So you could also use the phrase, for example, in the beginning of this sentence. You could say, for example, the process that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. And then we continue to learn about some facts. What are the facts here?
It says, on average, our biological clocks run on a 24.2-hour cycle. Interesting. I always thought our days were 24 hours. Let's read on. Instead of having a periodic leap day to reset ourselves, we tend to adjust a little every day to account for the 0.2-hour difference.
That's right. Of course, you know about leap year or leap day that happens once every 4 years. But our bodies, of course, have to adjust to a slightly longer than 24-hour period every day. But like you said, Anne-Marie, we don't usually think about that 0.2 hours.
That's interesting. Until I read this article, I didn't realize that our body clocks actually had a little over 24 hours on our timesheet.
Exactly. But we want to take a look at this phrase here, to account for something. This could mean different things. In our lesson, it means to provide something needed or missing, okay, to kind of explain for what's missing, like the time.
Well, today we are talking about sleep, so the example I have for you also has to do with sleep.
Okay.
I took a nap this afternoon to account for my wakeful night last night.
Oh, you had a wakeful night,
I did, yes.
You stayed awake a lot, or you kept waking up?
I was woken up many times.
All right. Well, a good nap can make up for lost sleep. We read on here, but some people have internal clocks that run longer than 24.2 hours, which means over time, they naturally fall asleep later and get up later.
In short, they didn't decide to be night owls. They are night owls, and that's okay.
And that's great. But right now, it's time for us to see how this word persistence is used in a skit.
Mr. Smith, sir, you are so successful.
Yes, that's true.
So tell me, Mr. Smith, what's the secret? How does a person become the vice president of a big company?
The secret is persistence.
Persistence.
Yes, you come to work early, you stay late, you work hard. You don't give up. That's persistence.
It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not easy. But you have to keep trying. You must always do your best, make good choices, and never give up. If you want success, it takes persistence.
Oh, thank you, sir. Persistence. That's good advice. I'll remember that.
Oh, and one more thing. It helps when your father owns the company.
Oh.
Well, usually success comes because of persistence. So here's a question for you guys. Are you naturally a early bird or a night owl?
我不确定我天生是不是就喜欢早起，但是因为我住的地方离公司比较远，然后需要开车走高速公路，为了要避免塞车，我必须要早一点起床。What about you, Gabe?
You know, you bring a good point. Sometimes when you have a habit for so long, you forget what you naturally are. I think I'm in the same way, but for a different reason. Maybe for the same reason. We all have kids.
Right.
And I think having kids kind of makes you become an early bird.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly. What I mean by that is maybe you're naturally a night owl. Like me, I'm naturally a night owl. I prefer to stay up late, and I can be more creative in the wee hours of the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes. But of course, I can't do that anymore, so I have forced myself to become an early bird.
That makes sense. Is it possible to be neither? Because I'm not sure if I am an early bird or a night owl.
So do you just sleep in the afternoon, Anne-Marie?
Well, that would be ideal for sure. I like naps, that's for sure. But I've had jobs where I've had to get up early in the morning, and I've had jobs where I've worked the night shift too, and I found that I can force myself to do both. So I'm not really sure which one I actually am.
Gonna have to think about that.
All right. Well, I have another question. 今天的课文呢，用了 body clock、biological clock 还有 internal clock 来指同样的东西。Is there a more formal term for it?
There sure is, Jack. It's called circadian rhythm.
Sir, Katie?
No.
在开玩笑吗？
Circadian rhythm is the technical term for what our lesson is about. You know, our body clocks. It's the natural and internal process that regulates the sleep-wake cycle for living things every 24 hours.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Circadian rhythm 就是24小时的生理节奏。
Hey, but Jack, you mentioned another phrase just now, biological clock. Actually, friends, there's something you should know before you use the term biological clock, especially with women. It has another definition, which is simply put, the relationship between a woman's age and her fertility.
Really? 所以当我们在使用 biological clock 之前呢，要知道它另外一个意思，它是指女性年龄还有生育能力的关系。
Yeah, so if you want to ask a woman about her circadian rhythm, don't say, hey, how's your biological clock these days?
Don't say that, please. Yes, she might get offended. Fertility and infertility especially can be a sensitive subject. Of course, women might joke among themselves and say something like, I gotta find a husband quick, my biological clock is ticking.
OK， 我会记得使用 circadian rhythm or body clock， 如果我要讲24小时生理节奏的话。
Yeah, but you know, the clock really is ticking here in the studio. Friends, that's all the time we have for today. Make sure that you join us for more about our body clocks next time right here on
Studio Classroom.
Last a lifetime. I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.